Hello everyone. It's Amy Bolton here for the Sacred Spirit Plant Healing mini-series. I'm just gonna spray some sweetgrass here. Take a couple deep breaths. Just get grounded here as I'm set up again for our monthly plant mini-series. So welcome. If you're watching the replay, I'd love to see your comments. Let me know if you've watched the other parts of the series yet, or if this is where you're beginning, and that's totally okay. So I've created this series based on a book that I've written called Searching for the Cranberries, and each part of the mini-series is based on each chapter and each little segment of lessons that I've learned through each plant as I've connected with the spirit of each plant. So a little bit about me. I have been calling myself an intuitive wild woman for probably about 3 or 4 years, and that was to encourage myself to tap more into my intuition, because we all have intuition, and I'm sure many of you who have found me and are watching this right now have played with your intuition, tapped into your intuition, and been very curious about how we can use that intuition a bit more. And the wild woman piece is because I grew up in northern BC, in the forest, in a very, very remote location in the middle of somewhere very beautiful. I don't like to use the middle of nowhere. I've cut that out of my vocabulary because that is a colonialism term to discredit the fact that there are beautiful, beautiful, vast places, so that resources can be taken from the land, which is not cool. We definitely want to protect the land. I, through Kara, have discovered that, and through my whole life journey, that I am the guardian of the forest. My family and I, we bought 23 acres here in beautiful Terrace, British Columbia. It had always been a dream of mine to move from a little tiny community in northern BC to a bigger center where we had access to more resources, but also to still be in nature and to have access to the forest, the ecosystem, all the interconnectedness of the land that the land has to offer. Growing up on a huge, huge lake, and I talk a little bit more about my story, quite a bit more about my story in my book, because it is a memoir of all of the lessons and stories and initiations that I have learned through the elements and through my life, right? From the day I was born and took my first breath of air. So here I am, and over the years, as a little girl, I definitely could feel the plant spirits and connect to the plant spirits. And I didn't really understand at the time, but as I grew older, I started to really understand more. And I came across a book, this book, The Boreal Herbal, which is written by Beverly Gray. She's a lady that lives up in the Yukon, northern Canada, right close to Alaska. And she wrote a book, The Boreal Herbal, and started talking about all the plants. And I came across this, and I realized that there were so many beautiful plants that were edible, that we could forage and we could eat, that were medicinal, that we could turn into medicine, into like things like this, salves that I make, and jars that we keep, that we dry. So we have tea. Tea is the most accessible thing that I like to keep around. I like to forage things in the summertime when they are available, and then keep them for medicinal use later on as needed, right? Yeah, as needed. So today we're going to talk about Saskatoons. Saskatoon are new to me, and it's really interesting how the universe works. I'm sure I would love to know if you've had synchronicities like this in your life as I tell this bit of this story. Is Saskatoons, my mom went to school and grew up in Saskatoon, which is a city in Saskatchewan, Canada. And she was very connected with Saskatoons. My mom passed away 7 years ago, 8 coming on, 7, 8 years ago. And today is actually her birthday. So when my mom passed away, April 15th, I believe it was, which wasn't very long ago, my sisters and I, we decided to have her celebration of life on her birthday. My mom was a long-standing diabetic from childhood, juvenile diabetic, and she always struggled with taking care of her health in a lot of ways. She was a rebel. She didn't want to follow the rules. She didn't like the fact that she had to follow certain diets and certain ways of eating. Despite the fact that she was a nurse, she was a registered nurse for many years in Alberta, and she worked very hard. She delivered many, many babies, supported delivery of many babies. She was there for many, many, you can imagine what a nurse goes through, emergency situations, which was great in a way, but also as a child of a nurse, if you've ever been a child of a nurse, you can probably relate that sometimes they've seen such heavy, crazy, deep stuff that the injuries that we have as children are not significant to them, right? So she was like, oh, that's fine, you'll be fine, right? So there was a real lack of empathy for our injuries and our wounds that we discovered as children or endured, because she just could face a lot. She had a strong stomach. I don't know if I could actually work in the field that she did for many, many years. Anyway, so today is my late mother's birthday, May 1st, and we had a beautiful celebration of life. And it's interesting today. Today feels very significant because it's also Valentine, I guess. And we would always celebrate my mom's birthday since she's passed away and while she was alive with something sweet, because she loved sugar. She absolutely loved sugar, and she would just counteract the sugar with insulin, and she just moved on through life because she just loved sugar. And so I went on to get my integrative nutrition health coaching certification because I felt like there was something more than just processed foods and lots of sugar and junk food and all these things. I knew my body craved something more than that, and I knew there was more to food than just what we buy pre-made in the grocery stores. My late grandma had, on my dad's side, had taught my mom how to make some bigger meals, from what I understand through speaking with my dad. So my mom wasn't very much of a cook. But she did learn. And she learned, and she did move on to serving many, many people food in huge crews at the lodge we grew up in. And we had a big kitchen, and she served many, many different meals, and she learned how to cook. Because we can always learn things. We're lifelong learners, right? And so this is a big thing with the sacred plant healing journey that I've been on, is I'm always learning. I'm constantly learning. And I recommend starting small and just starting with 1 or 2 plants and connecting them with them and seeing if you're drawn to them. So Saskatoons are interesting because I didn't grow up with Saskatoons, actually. I just became aware of them last summer while I was writing my book, actually, interestingly enough. They came to me and they spoke to me. And while I was writing my book, many, many plants came to me and wanted to be in my book. And it just kept going on and on and on. And eventually I was like, I just want to publish my book. I just want to get it done. But I have many, many more stories coming, and I'm sure I will write future books. And so I also wanted to share a bit about this past month. As I was thinking of this mini-series coming up today, I've been connecting outside in our yard. So we just bought this property in the fall, and I recommend connecting with plants through the 4 seasons, all 4 seasons as you move through. I totally forgot to pull this up in case there's comments, because I don't think I can see them, but that's totally okay. I will do that while I'm talking. So through all the 4 seasons, you're connecting with these plants and getting to know them, right? So I've only really had a little bit of fall. We didn't really have capacity to connect with plants at that time. We were very, very busy. So I've had winter to connect with plants, and I've identified some, but I'm waiting for the leaves and the flowers and all that to come out in the spring so I can further identify certain plants. And then summer will come and they'll change, and some of those flowers will turn to berries. Some of those flowers will just die off and you know, be ready for the next cycle next year. And so I've been walking around the property, connecting with different trees. There's so many different trees here than I grew up with, right? So it's a whole new experience of learning from the plants and connecting with everything. So we have this beautiful, beautiful giant tree. I honestly don't know what kind of tree it is. I'm kind of waiting for the leaves to come in to really fully identify it. I've never really been into trees. However, I have lots of tree books, and I will be researching it and I will be learning, because I am a student, forever student. I do have a lot to offer you, but you also have a lot to offer me. So if you have things that you want to offer throughout this series, feel free to comment and share, because I love to hear from you. I love to hear what plants you're connecting with, because maybe it's something that I don't have in my area. Maybe it's something that I could learn more about. Maybe it's something I might need in my life. So feel free to share. You are all teachers just as well, just as much as I am. So this tree, as much as I don't know, I can't fully identify it, I can feel it and I can connect to it. When we first moved here, there was a car right sitting in front of it. And underneath the car, we discovered there was a whole bunch of plywood with like tar paper or like roofing on it, asphalt roofing. And a whole bunch of car parts and pieces, and then the motor was kind of set to the side of the tree. And a few weeks ago, I looked at the tree and I told my husband, I said, that tree is not happy with that car. Like, that car has to go. You know, we've been plugging away, cleaning up different areas of the property and burning sheds and old wood and lumber and cleaning up shrubbery, and just, it's been a lot. And there's a few old cars on the property, and I was like, that tree is not happy with that car. I could just sense it, right? And I'd been connecting with the tree all winter, with the leaves, as the leaves had been following and spinning down, and the seeds have been reseeding. And just really curious to what this tree is going to do come spring and summer. And so my husband says, well, we'll remove it. So we cleaned all the stuff around it out. We hooked it up to the truck and we pulled it out. This car doesn't have tires. It just drug through the earth in the mud, and we plopped it right next to the yard where we eventually put it on the trailer, and now it's going to be heading to the recycle place. And as soon as we cleared under that tree, I could feel its vibrancy. I could feel the tree just, thank you. And this tree, it's I know it's not a weeping willow, but it's kind of like that, right? Where it sags way down, and it's like we cleared out some of the dead branches in the front on the side where the car is. So you can walk in there, and it just, the energy when you walk in underneath this tree, it just feels like you're being hugged by the tree. You just stand there, and it's like so nourishing and beautiful. And I could feel the tree was so much happier. And then when I go around to check out the other side of the tree, you can feel the life on that side is so much healthier and happier. And I stood under the tree the other day, and I was kind of communing and telepathically connecting to the tree, and some real deep messages came through to me. This tree is older than a lot of technology and a lot of cars, and this tree has been here for a long time. This tree is really confused at why that vehicle was parked on this side and blocked the water from its roots. And she was trying, the tree was trying and trying. I always call things she, just out of habit. I don't know what gender it is. She probably is a she, actually, thinking of it. Trust that intuition. Was trying to consume the car and turn it back to earth. But it takes time. There's so much plastic and so much metal and so much for the tree to consume, and it had that tar paper there and nothing was growing. It was the whole spot underneath it was completely dead. So we left the leaves, we cleaned up all the debris that wasn't meant to be there, that humans bring into this earth and don't recycle, reuse, and just throw away. There's been trash all over this property, mostly plastic from since the 70s that's been just spewed around and you know, and nobody's had the opportunity to come and clean it up. I told my husband the other day, I said, I feel like I've just constantly picking garbage up all the time. Every property we've been on, there's always garbage coming in from here or there. And I remind you to really think about what you're consuming, right? Are you buying water bottles or are you refilling water bottles? Are you buying coffee cups or are you refilling your to-go cups, right? When you're consuming, are you consuming with plastic that's maybe recyclable? We don't know. Where does that plastic actually go? Does it go into a landfill or does it get reused, right? Questioning these things. And this is what the tree really made me think about. It asked me because it did not want that car there. It did not want that there. And all the branches around it were dying on that side. They were all decaying and breaking off and dead because she was putting that all down there to try and consume and decay what wasn't meant to be. She's taking a long time to grow her leaves. Her little buds are coming. She is still alive, despite some people's opinions on possibly not, but I've been watching. She is alive. She had leaves when we came here. They've all fallen over the winter. And some of the other trees are much faster, but she is taking some time and she needs some nourishment and love. And she will provide a lot of shade and a lot of love and a lot of security for us as we go under it, and just grounding and connection and reminding that the earth is always going through the death and rebirth cycle every year. Okay, so that is my story that I really wanted to share with you from the tree that I've connected with. Let me pull up my other notes here. And then I want to move into, so we were talking about Saskatoons, right? I get distracted by the tree, but that story needed to be shared. So, Saskatoon, like I say, Saskatoon is new to me, and that is totally okay. I'm going to set my coffee over here and hope it sits nicely. So, this is the woman, Lee Joseph, who got me into all of this and really, really inspired me. Her book is great, Lee Joseph, Held by the Land. It's a lot about northern BC, Canada, plants in Alaska, and she talks a bit about the Saskatoon berry or the service berry, and she's from the Squamish Nation, which is down near Vancouver, and she has some recipes in here, and then before she had written her book, this is the other book I talked about with Beverly Gray. And in this book, what was really interesting that I found as I was preparing for this today is that First Nations have had a long history of using Saskatoon for both food and medicine. And it was often used to prevent miscarriages, to stop excess menstrual bleeding and cramping, and help women transition into menopause. The juice and inner bark were also used after birthing for pain relief and a blood tonic. The berries were used to make eye and eardrop treatments. So it has a long history of this. And, you know, I might journey into learning more about those things and creating more about those things. We'll see. We'll see what happens. There are a lot of Saskatoon berries. So the way I connected with Saskatoon berries last summer, they were all over our yard. We were renting this place, this little place, and of course the page is 222. Yeah, what a beautiful sign. And it's 10:22 here. The Saskatoon berries, I was picking them. And I talk about this in the little chapter about it in my book. And I was like, I'd never seen so many berries on a bush before. Like I've harvested quite a few different berries, but we didn't have Saskatoon berries up north where I grew up. And I'm like, oh, grabbing, hastily grabbing all the berries just in excitement, and so much excitement. And I felt this message come right to me, like, slow down. Slow down. Stop. And pay attention to what you're doing, right? And it brought me on a whole journey for a while about greed. It made me really think about the word greed and the resources that we need versus want versus taking just to take, just to have more. And giving to other people versus hiding and keeping for ourselves. And I went down this long journey about greed and what is the difference between, where does that line get drawn between taking too much and leaving enough for the birds. The Saskatoon berry was like, hey, there's birds, there's other creatures, there's my seeds want to create more bushes for future generations, right? Because the inside of the berry is the seeds, and that's how we create more Saskatoon berries. And that's why there was an abundance of them, because as much as there was several neighbors, nobody had been picking them in that area. In other areas, I've seen people picking them, and that's great. But because there's not as many people foraging off the land, which is okay, there's abundance of these Saskatoon berries. And I had to learn to slow down, and the Saskatoon berry really made me stop and listen. And it's interesting, on my journey of listening to plants and connecting with the spirits of plants, so many different plants have had these strong messages for me. Devil's Club is very powerful, and it has, I don't actually talk about it in my book because it is such a powerful sacred plant that I'm just taking the time to get to know it and have respect for it and honor it in the way. And I would really like to learn from other people who have knowledge on that. I've started gathering some knowledge, and it may be in my next book. You never know. But these Saskatoon berries were really loud. They were really loud with me, and they shared a lot with me that day. And some of it's hard to make sense of in words. It's an energetic, it's a connection. And the roots through the earth are all connected. And since I started this series, I've had several people sharing different videos with me. And one of the words that came up in some of these videos with other people who are connecting to the spirits of the plants is telepathy. So that's basically what we're doing, is we're connecting in with the plants. And if you think of the root system and the connection through like the aspen trees and how we're so interconnected, and how it came to me a few summers ago to take my drum and send healing energy out to people who need it through the aspen trees, right? Like the poplar, the aspen, the cottonwood, they're everywhere. They heal the land as it's been over harvested. They come back. And it's really beautiful. So that is what the Saskatoon berries had shared with me, and they are very nourishing as food and medicine, as I said, in many, many ways. And they really connect us back to our ancestors in many, many capacities, many, many ways. And the messages through them is just beautiful. Okay, so I would like to lead you into a little guided meditation right now. So if you're watching the replay, you can always pause and get ready, get comfy in a comfy spot, get some water, and just get ready to get into a guided meditation. So just take a couple deep breaths. Release with sound. Move your body, get comfortable, wiggle your toes, your fingers. Just notice what's going on in your body. Keep breathing, taking deep breaths. Closing your eyes and just sitting there. And notice that you're on a hillside, hiking along a trail. As you're hiking, you're seeing all the plants and trees and bushes and shrubbery along the trail you're hiking through. You're noticing all the details of the leaves and the different flowers, and going along, you come across a beautiful south-facing slope with abundance of Saskatoon berries. They're just dripping from the tree. You can reach out your hand and grab a handful just from one branch. There are so many Saskatoon berries. And as you're looking at the berries and just in awe and admiration of the abundance of nourishment, of medicine, you're listening to the Saskatoon bush, listening for its guidance. You're noticing its roots are deeply planted into the earth, reminding you to stay grounded and connected to Mother Earth and her ecosystem and the whole interconnectedness of life that's out there. The fungi, the lichens, the birds, the bees, the snakes, the animals, the little critters that crawl around along, the squirrels. So many different creatures. She gives life to the bears that come along, the black bears, the grizzly bears, all the bears, and the deer, the moose, whatever animals are present. She feeds the whole ecosystem of life. You as a human being in this earthly existence and your vessel, your body, she nourishes us. She nourishes you. You notice she's reminding you to really be present when you're out harvesting and connecting with plants, and to really listen. While there might be an abundance of berries, only take what you need. Only take what you need. And remember, when you take what you need, make sure to use it. Make sure to preserve it in whatever way possible, to make sure that it gets utilized by yourself, your family, your friends, your community. Perhaps you think of the jam you're going to make as you're picking the berries. Perhaps you think of the frozen Saskatoon berries you're going to have in your freezer throughout the winter that you can put into your pancakes, your granola, your bread. Perhaps you think of the medicine that you're going to make from the bark and the branches as you gather some. You're just really taking in all of the energy and the presence of this beautiful, beautiful plant. You have your basket with you that holds all of the things that you've been foraging for as you've been walking on the trail. You look down and notice them. You can smell the scent from the different plants you've been picking. You continue on along the trail. And eventually find your way back home into your heart, back home in a place that feels safe, in a little cave, in a little den, wherever that may be, in your own temple, your own space, your private little sanctuary. And as you're sitting there preparing the items that you forged and getting them ready and honoring them and respecting them and treating them with the highest regard, because the earth has provided you with this nutrition. The earth has offered you these gifts. And now you must respect them and honor them and put so much love into them in whatever way you're going to consume or utilize these resources. As you tuck them away on some drying racks in the freezer or whatever, get them ready. Just step out into the beautiful sun, into the garden outside your home. And then slowly but slowly start coming back to the reality that we live in today. Let's come back, wiggling your toes, your fingers, you're fluttering your eyes open, and coming back into the room where you find yourself. Now, if you'd like, you can pause and you can take a few moments to write down what that experience was for you. Write down a few things. What did you take from that? What showed up for you? What happened for you? So feel free to do that if you'd like. And I'd love to hear in the comments if you feel free, if you feel like sharing. Or send me a message. I'm happy to hear that too. I love hearing from all of you. I love hearing about your sacred spirit plant journeys and healing experiences and connecting with plants. Okay, so I've already shared a little bit about that. So thinking as you're journaling, what wisdom is the plant sharing with you? What wisdom has the plant connected with you? I encourage you, just as I have in the other series, part of the series, to really think of what plants are calling to you, which ones are speaking to you, and what are they saying to you? Take a moment to really connect with those plants. And as we wrap up today, I want you to remember that Saskatoon reminds us to ground, to nourish ourselves with real whole foods. And as I personally move on to the start of 3 weeks, this is the third week of doing a sugar detox and getting rid of sugar. and really listening to my body. And my goal this week and my intention this week has been to really notice what foods that I consume, how they feel in my body, how they nourish my body. What does my tummy feel like when I eat those foods? I'm doing my own kind of version of an elimination diet. And I've been really, really listening to my body and what it feels like when I eat food. And I haven't showed you guys yet, but this is a jam that I made. There are Saskatoons in here, along with many other berries that I had in my freezer. Basically put them in a pot, cooked them up, and then I water canned them at the end. They have wild cherries in here, which is a natural pectin. Apples or cherries have pectin in them naturally, so you don't have to use the pectin from the store if you don't want to. And quite often, I don't think I put any extra sugar in that actually last year when I made it. And the important thing is to label with a date. I didn't do that always. And it's tricky when you're like, what is this? What is this mystery jar in my cupboard? How long has it been here? So a date and something in it, in your freezer and your jars and everything is very, very important. It really is. Just looking at my notes here, thinking of what else is here. So if you haven't watched the full series or all the other replays, I invite you to do that. If you haven't purchased a copy of my book, I encourage you to do that. I will drop a little list of the things that I have going on. I have created a code for a free sound healing, chakra clearing, that you can use to get access to that on my website. You can access all the recordings for this. Facebook no longer keeps the replays up, so you can probably see some of the replays in the Dragon Eye Tribe. However, all of them will be on my website. What else? I do... yeah, I'll just drop what I have to offer in the comments, and you can look through that. I usually share it on Tuesdays, I believe, is when business posts are in here, so you can check those out. What else? What else? What else? I'm sure that's all I really have to say. I feel fairly complete. Let me know if you have any questions. If you've had any experience with Saskatoon berries, I'd love to hear. Like I say, this is a new plant to me, but it was very loud, and it definitely gave me some profound lessons and reflection points when connecting with this plant last year. And that's basically what my book is about, is the lessons that the plants have spoken to me through why can't I say that word very well? Telepathy, or through, that psychic, that intuitive connection, that clairvoyance, right? That we have, and we can all tap into and learn more about. And beautifully, being my late mother's birthday today, Saskatoon berries landed so beautifully, and I couldn't have planned this any differently. But thank you all so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next month in my next topic, which is going to be about yarrow. And I actually have some yarrow, and yarrow should be popping up all summer for you all. So if you want to gather some yarrow, if you know what yarrow is, I see it popping out on the lawn everywhere. It's just these little squiggly leaves. Feel free to gather some yarrow. I love yarrow. Yarrow was one of the very first plants that spoke to me. So feel free. You can order yarrow online as well. And feel free to get some to connect with for next month. And I would love to connect with you. And if you are local to me, feel free to reach out, because there might be some local events coming up soon. My messages are always open if you have questions or concerns and you don't want to leave them as a public comment, but feel free to do that. Love you all, sending you so much love, and I look forward to hearing from you all.